Hello everyone and welcome to another tutorial with Noseman, because as we all know, Noseman knows. So we are going to make this Jiggly Orb, and what we're going to try and do is see how the Jiggle Deformer works combined with other deformers and so forth. So without further ado, let's begin. I'm going to create a sphere. And I'm going to set my shading to show the lines, and I'm going to change my sphere type from standard to icosahedron because it creates this nice triangular structure. And I'm going to increase the segment so we have quite a bit of density. Excellent. Now what we're going to do is use a random effector, and I'm going to make it a child of the sphere because I'm going to apply it as a deformer. In order to do that, we need to go to the Deformer tab of the Effector and set the deformation to points. And now you can see all the points have been randomized. The next thing I'm going to do is set the fall-off to be a sphere. Good. So now if I move this up, you will see that only the points that are within the sphere are being deformed. Fantastic. So let's see a few more things. We go to the parameter of the random effector and let's zero out the X and Y. So now they only move in their normal direction. So if I move this around now, you will see that it goes outwards. Fantastic. So this is the main aspect of what we are trying to do here. Now, one thing I would like to achieve is this effector / deformer to go around the sphere. And what I can do, or so I think, is create a null, put it here, make it a child, rotate the null, and well, nothing really happens because the hierarchy has been broken. Then I will say, oh no, I'm going to make them both siblings, and what I'm going to do is create another null, and put this here, and put this here, and again, nothing happens. So, how do I solve this problem? So let's make everything as it was. First of all, I'm going to create a null, call it rotator, and then I'm just going to press command and make a copy of it on itself and call this position. And the position null, let me turn off the random deformer because it may be interfering with what we are seeing. I'm going to raise it up by 100 so it's right at the edge of our sphere. So now if I take this little bugger and rotate him, the null is going to rotate around our sphere. Let me undo. So the position of this null is the correct one. And I want to transfer it to the random effector, which is a child of our sphere. All I have to do is go to the random effector, right click and go to the character tags, add a constraint tag, set the tag to be in PSR mode, and over here just drag this position. And now if I rotate this, you will see that my random effector follows this. So I think it's a good time to animate this. So at frame 0, we go to the rotation B and click to add a keyframe. Let me go to frame 90. Let's make a full circle 360. Add a keyframe, extend my animation range. Let's make it 250 frames. Double click here to make it occupy the whole 250 frames. And now I'm going to press play, rewind, press play. You will see it will do one complete rotation and then it's going to stop. So there are a couple of things I need to fix. Number one, I want it to have a constant speed. I don't want it to accelerate and then decelerate and then stop. I just want it to go around and around at a constant speed. The best way to do that is right click over here, go to animation and bring up the F curve. And you can see that the F curve for the particular animation track I've got here on the rotation B is an ease in, ease out. And I'd like you to focus on this horizontal line here. So number one, I'm going to click here once, press Command A to select all my keyframes and click on this little icon to make my animation linear. And you can see that now we have a linear constant speed, but over here it will stop and continue where this black line is. If I click on the animation track, in the attributes you will see the before and after. Now, watch here and see what happens. When I set the after to continue, you'll see this line goes all the way up. This means that after we've reached this keyframe, the animation is going to continue. So let me close this down, rewind, press play, and from now on, this circular motion is going to continue forever. So I'm happy with this. If I want to expand my animation range, I can do it, and it will just continue going around and around. If I want to make it go faster, I just bring this keyframe closer to here. If I want to make it go slower, I just bring it that way, to the right. Excellent. Now, one thing I don't like is that my animation is quite rigid. So wherever my fall off resides, then these spikes appear, and nothing happens when it leaves, and that's what we should expect. But if we add a Jiggle Deformer right after the random, you will see now that part of that motion creates some sort of wake effect, some sort of secondary motion. And by selecting the jiggle, going to the object and changing the stiffness, for example, we can control how much it's going to jiggle and how much drag it's going to have, how much of the structure is going to be retained. We can create pretty interesting effects just by changing these parameters. So I'm going to go with this amount of stiffness, bit of structural, and that looks good enough for what I like. The other thing is I just want my fall off to be a bit smoother. So select the random, go to the fall off, and just drag this to the right so we get this more centralized effect over there. Excellent. You can play with these and change them as much as you want. So this is an interesting start. But now I would like to colorize this so that although my main sphere is made out of stone, out of some sort of rock or marble, I want these spikes to illuminate light. And how do I do that? Well, before I move on to that, I'd like to show you something. What I'm going to do is advance a few frames over here and bring up my interactive render region. What you will see is that my sphere is absolutely straight. Whereas if I render in the viewport, you can see it has these little bumps. That's interesting. Why is that happening? Well, there's a very good reason for that. And that is because of a certain priority configuration inside Cinema 4D. Some of these effects, one of them is the jiggle, will not render when we do our final render. So if I click here to render the final frame over here, you will see that my sphere is round. And none of the jiggle effects gets rendered out. There's a very simple solution to this. You select the jiggle, you go to the cache, and you calculate the cache. This is going to record the positions of the points, and it's going to allow Cinema 4D to render without having to calculate. And there you go. Now everything looks good here. If I click here, again, now I can see my full effect. Fantastic. So that is done as well. Now, about the colorization, we are going to use vertex maps. And the trick I'm going to do is the following. First of all, in order for that to work, I need to make my object editable. And instead of just selecting it and pressing C on the keyboard, what I'm going to do is make a copy of it, turn everything off, put this under a null. So I'm going to make a null. I made a cube. I'm going to make a null now. Bring it down here. Bring this sphere, the backup, into here. Let's call this temp, and let's turn off the visibility. And now click on this, press C to make it editable. And you calculate one more time. There you go. Now I can scrub as well, and you will see that everything happens as it should. What we are going to do now to record which part of the model is a spike is go to the sphere, right click, go to the character tags, and add what is called a tension tag. Now I'm going to turn off these two so that I can record the state of the original object. And with the tension tag selected, what I'm going to do is fix the tension, and I want a stretch map. What the stretch map does, it actually records which points have moved from their original position and created a stretched polygon more than others. All I have to do is make a map. This is going to create a vertex map. And I'm going to do the following thing. I'm going to select this little padlock to lock this, and then select this. So now the attributes don't change with the padlock, but don't forget to release it later on. And I'm going to turn on my deformers. And what you will see is that we're getting a lot of yellow, which is a high value where we have the deformation. And you can see that wherever the sphere has not been deformed, it's red, which means 0. I want to confine this a bit, and you can do this by changing the amount. So I'm going to raise this, and the more I raise it, I'm actually crushing down this color ramp I've created from yellow to red. So now I'm only getting this white color where the spikes are, and I'm going to use that in a material later on. So play around with the amount and just define which parts of your model you want to colorize with the other color. So everything is pretty much ready, and now we're going to move to the texturing, lighting, rendering, and all that part of the tutorial. So let's begin by creating an environment. So I'm going to double click here, call it env, double click on the material, turn off the reflectance, go to the color, and let me just put this on. I need some sort of high dynamic range image, and the easiest place to find one is in your content browser. Click on the content browser icon and just make sure that your magnifying glass is activated, and let's type .hdr. So if I press enter, it will find everything that has the text .hdr in, so all the high dynamic range images. And I have the glow kitchen, which I like. It has interesting lighting. Click and just drag it on this tab, and we've loaded it in this material. Let's go up to our object manager. Now let's create a sky object. Let's put this on the sky object, and what I'm going to do is right click and add a compositing tag. And you can see nothing changes here because I forgot to turn off my little padlock, so it doesn't change what the attribute manager is showing. So I'm going to just click on this, and now it brings us the attributes of whatever the selection is. And I'm going to turn off the scene by camera. Now that we've set up our environment, I'm going to render, and you'll see that nothing really happens. And that is because we do not have any material that reacts to image-based lighting, and there are no reflections here or anything like that. It's just a default gray of the viewport. So let's go here and create a new PBR material. Let's drag it on our sphere, and let's render quickly, and you will see that we get a nice overall light. Nice. And you can see this big highlight here, which I do not want to have. So go to your render settings, go to the options, and turn off the default light. And now if I render again, you will see that our sphere is rendered only by the image. That looks fantastic. Just to make it a bit faster, I'm just going to switch my renderer to physical. So render this out, and now it's not that faster, but it's a bit better looking. Excellent. So let's go and do certain things. I want this to look like a rock. So let's double click here. Let's name this sphere, or whatever else you want. Go to the reflectance and make sure that there are no speculars in your two reflectance materials, and that will increase the speed of your render ever so slightly. Now if you need speculars, go and add them, but we don't need them for what we're doing. Now let's go to the diffuse, and for a color I'm going to use another image from the content browser. So I'm going to click here and go and type rock, press enter. Let's make the icons bigger. Let's scroll down, and I think this one is good enough. Click and drag it over here on the tab, release. Now it's loaded, and I'm going to move this slightly to the side, bring up my interactive render region, and now we get a view of what's going on here. That's an interesting pattern, but I don't want this color. I want to be able to control the color. So over here with the image already in the texture slot, I'm going to click and add what is called a filter shader, and click here, and now we have the filter shader, which is a colorization filter. I think they use it for color correction and so forth, and it's going to do everything on the image which is loaded in its slot. So I want to desaturate it a bit and make it a bit darker, and a bit darker. See what happens over here. There you go. This looks much more to my liking. Good. I can see it's a bit too smooth over here. So what I'm going to do is go to the reflectance, go to the default reflection, but before I do that, I'm going to go here and copy. Let me copy the shader, the filter with the image inside, and I'm going to go to the default reflection, and I'm going to twirl open the roughness, and in the texture, I'm going to paste what I just copied. Now, I'm going to go here. You can see something changes over here, and let's not pay attention to that at this moment. I'm going to change the color so it's we have a few more whites, a bit more contrast. So what we can do here, make the lightness 0. Let's desaturate it. I just need black and white. Let's play around with these until we get some nice differentiation here. Black and white. There you go. That looks a bit better. Good. And what this is going to do, which is going to be more obvious if I go up, I need to set my roughness to 100%. And this means that now only whatever is in this texture slot is going to control the roughness. And already we're getting differences in the roughness, which make this look much better. So again, I'm going to go here and copy this, copy shader, because I'm going to go to the bump channel, the overall bump channel, and I'm going to paste it in here. So let's go and paste the shader, and you're going to see that we're going to get some bumps. Increase this to 100%, and we can go and play around with the colorization of it through the filter if we wish to do so. I'm going to leave it as it is for now. Now, you can't see such a big difference, and that is because our lighting is quite diffuse. We just need a bit more sharper light sources. So let's go and create them. Close the material, go to the Object Manager. Let's create a PBR light, and I'm going to right click and add a target tag. Drag the sphere in the target tag so it always looks at the target, which is the sphere. Let's go to the top view, grab the light and move it out a bit to the back. I'm going to frame this where I would like it to be, and I'm going to move the light over this side a bit underneath, make it a bit taller. Good. And let's see what this gives us. Going to get a nice little rim here. Excellent. I can move it further back, and let's go to the top view. With the light selected, press Command or Control to make a copy. Let's get something on the other side as well. Good, and we have these two lights lighting our object from either side. Now I can select them both, and I can go to photometric and make them ever so slightly dimmer. Okay, you can play around with these. You can change the colorization. What I like to do, which is quite common in movies these days, is to make this one a nice warmer color and make this one a bit of a cooler color, so we get kind of a warm and cool. And anyway, you know how to do that. I don't need to show you. So back, let me press Alt R to get rid of this. Let's go back to this. I want to transfer this data in my luminance of my sphere. So I'm going to go to the luminance channel, turn it on, go here, go to the effects, bring up a vertex map shader, go here, drag the vertex map over here, and now if I render, you will see that everything that has a higher value becomes white. And now I want to make this green. What am I going to do? Well, go here and add another filter shader. Click on the filter shader. I'm going to add my interactive render region here so we can see what happens when I change the colors. And I'm going to colorize. Nothing's going to change currently. I'm going to add saturation 100%. Now everything's going to become red. And I'm just going to change the hue until this little preview becomes greenish. And there you have it. So everything that has a value now is green. If I scrub forward, you'll see that this goes that way. Fantastic. And what I'd like to add to finish this off is a bit of ambient occlusion, just to create a bit of shadowing between the fragments. So diffusion, I said fragments, I meant whatever these are. Add in the diffusion channel, activate it, and turn on the luminance and the reflection. And let's add an ambient occlusion. Let's make sure that the value is a bit lower, so 5 centimeters, so it only captures a few, or even maybe 10. And now you can see it's going to have ever so slightly more shadowing. And now we can see the bumps because of the lights, and we have everything ready to render. So let's turn off the interactive render region and let's render this in our viewport. I said viewport, what I meant in our picture viewer. I'm going to keep all these mistakes here. Excellent. Now let's get rid of the lights. I don't want to see them. Just select both lights and go to the details and make sure that the show in render is off. This will make them invisible to the camera, but their effect will be there just like the previous one. And this is pretty much it. You can render your animation and create your own masterpiece. Now, do remember that if you do any changes to the random effector or anything like that, you have to recache the Jiggle Deformer, and this catches a lot of artists when they change something and have something cached and nothing seems to change. So if I go to the random effector just to show you and I change this value, nothing will happen because the jiggle now is providing these values because they have been cached. If I turn this off, now you can see that everything goes crazy. So thanks for watching. I hope you create beautiful things. You can use this with any type of 3D model, with text, with whatever you want to use it with. And I'd be very curious if you do anything you're proud of to post a link or something so I can see it and feel proud of myself. Well, thanks for watching, and I'll be back very soon. Toodaloo.